next couple minutes, I'll be talking about the Snowflake for Manufacturing SAP Data Analytics. I'm David Rickert, part of Snowflake, part of the field CTO office based out of Geneva. We have some future statements, so we have a safe harbor piece. So if we take a look at what some of the market forces are happening on, I don't know if you saw the SAP stand. It's a little small stand at the corner in the back. One or two people. Go say hi to them. They feel a bit lonely. So why do they feel lonely? So what are some of the things that are happening? At least a little bit in the market conditions. As we're coming out of the COVID area and the recovery, is that there's a lot of companies that are not only merging, right, and acquisitions, but they have to merge more quickly, and they have to get these financial statements out as quickly as possible. But then there's also divestitures. And if we look at that, that has a huge implication concerning data and how it works. So take, for example, there's traditionally lots of companies out there that have made mergers after mergers after mergers, and you have 30 or 40 companies that are into one, and they all have SAP systems, but they're on a different blueprint. How do you bring that financial data together easily, mix it, enrich it, and whatnot? Second point is BW. They've been phasing it out. Well, they've been phasing it out since like 2012. Hasso-Plattner, it's like BW is dead. And yet it keeps coming back, and it's eventually getting phased out. Back in 2019, they said we'll phase it out in 2024, and now it's 2027, and then it's 2029. And if you pay just a little bit more, you can get a bit more. But okay, that makes people think a bit on the SAP side, but what customers are actually looking for is innovation, sizing, scalability, stability. And then the third part, data collaboration. PO, PI, all these things, you know, this transactional pieces between companies, great, but it's only a megabyte. You know, in today's day and age, we're not even talking about gigabytes anymore. We're talking about terabytes and petabytes. And how many petabyte BW systems are out there? That's compressed. No, okay. So there's 100. You know, the biggest one. I talked to the biggest company on the planet, and they all have the biggest SAP system. There's literally 10 of them. But the largest BW system I've heard of, it's not even running on a HANA system, but it's something around 250. It's running IBM DB2 somewhere in Canada, but it's around 300 terabytes. Any guess what the largest Snowflake customer is? How big it is? 40 petabytes. What's that even mean? It's huge. So if you take the largest BW system on HANA, which is about 120 terabytes, it's 277 times bigger than that. So I was comparing Venus to the sun. So it's just literally a different market, a different way of working with that. And we call it big data, and then we call it data, and then we call it big data again. But being able to collaborate, that means sharing petabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes of data is super important in your supply chain with customers, and without having to push this data back and forth across the networks. So what are some of the challenges? On the ERP side, again, if you have 40, 50 ERPs, these are some of the biggest companies on the planet, getting that data together, there's either you spend 15 years getting one blueprint onto that, for example, the Globe project at Nestle, or you do that consolidation piece either on the BW side or in a system like Snowflake, and you bring it together and you report on it. The second part is being able to analyze that data is fantastic. You know, if it's coming off an SAP system, why not use SAP? If you have 100% SAP, there's not a lot of value add on the Snowflake side. On the other hand, if you have non-SAP systems and you have semi-structured data or unstructured data and you want to be able to bring it in, just economically, it doesn't make any sense to do this into a HANA system. You want something that can store that data, that can govern the data, that can centralize the data, where you can access the data. and you only pay for what you use. The third part, okay, expensive, complex, difficult to support, but hey, we all made our, a lot of, how do you say, supported my family for a long time on that. But some of these challenges, if we get down to the business side of things, what kind of questions are we trying to answer? And we've been trying to answer these questions for 20 years, but now we're talking about what's the most economical way to answer it? What's the most effective way of answering that? What if I want to enrich that data? What if I want to get the AI ML piece? I have to say that at least 40 times or I get kicked off, right? AI, ML. Global spend, improving production, sales trends, external data, supplier variance, inventory availability. Take an example of a company in Germany, TISA. They say, okay, we're going to take our SAP data and we're going to take our shop floor data, we're going to take that conveyor belt data and say, hey, if there's a slowdown in production or something stops, is because I now combine that data in Snowflake, I can tell this is connected to this customer, and I can send them a message right away. Typical SAP data architecture. I like the slide I built. No, I didn't build the slide, but having worked it right, you have your transactional system, and then you need to bring that into, traditionally as extractors, and then bring that into, for 20 years it was BW, and then it's like, oh wait, we have to move into the cloud. Oh wait, we need to be in memory, so now you have a choice of BW, or now I have a choice of HANA. Okay, I'll go BW. Oh wait, I can't fit everything in, so I need to use hot, warm, cold storage. And so I have the BW piece, I have the HANA piece, I have the Sybase piece, I have the Hadoop Lake piece, and somehow it's all managed and work, and somebody's going to partition it, and somebody's going to push back and forth the data, and I'm eventually going to get the data and report on it. And then, just to add to that, it's like, okay, we're moving to the cloud. Now that I've got the cloud, you want your BW data into SAP system. Well, okay, you need another BW Bridge, and then bring it into the in-memory reporting, which is on HANA, which again has certain restrictions. No. If we move and, for example, take what's the value add of having Snowflake, for example, surprise. One is that from any source of data, any type, volume, variety, velocity of data, you can bring that into Snowflake as a first-class citizen. It's very easy. So traditionally, what did we do? We have extraction. You'd have to transform that. It'd have to be structured. You have a lot of logic in your ETL process, and then you land it into your target. And then if you have to change it, you have to go back, dependencies, et cetera. With the modern data architecture, right, you extract the data as raw as possible and land it into, you would say, oh, data lake. Well, Snowflake is a combination. It does both the data lake and it does the data warehousing, and it's been doing it for 10 years now. It's not, is one of the first in the market to do both that. So one, increase enterprise visibility. The second thing is that now, hey, I don't have to have siloed systems for my IT data, transactional data, and my OT data, right? OT data, shop floor, sensor. This can be 100 times or 1,000 times more data than your transactional systems. And so you need to have an economical way of bringing that across and be able to store it and to store it into one place. Snowflake is a great place. Deliver value faster. How do you do that? If you can land that data in one place and conform it and model it and report on it, because it's in one place, it's easier. But secondly, there's just basic functions in Snowflake we call zero copy clone. We couldn't do this before. So say I have a 100 terabyte system, and I need to do I want to stress test it. Well, I'm not going to stress test my production system. So we have something called zero copy clone. It makes a zero copy clone, so it doesn't take any more space, 100 terabytes. I can run different compute against it. I can stress test all my data inside that, and then go that. And I can also zero copy clone it into dev and test and things like that. So instead of maintaining 4 systems, right, dev, test, sandbox, production, I can generate and destroy environments at will. What are some of the things that we do on the business improvement process? One, enhanced forecasting, because you can bring all these different data pieces. You can bring, tax information, IT information, that to bring it across. Sourcing, supply chain risk. How many times has your system, your analytic systems, fallen over? End of month, end of year, as I have zero visibility. It is extremely hard to make a Snowflake system fall over. Why? Because it's distributed, because you have different, we would call them virtual warehouses for the computation. We have the data stored in triplicate in the storage piece and whatnot. So there's a huge amount of redundancy and resiliency that's built into it. If you want a high availability in an SAP system, it only costs twice as much because you have to have two systems, right? Snowflake is just built in. Making, right? Machine learning, we're coming out with a Copilot and whatnot. Delivery, custom fulfillment, use that transactional data, but be able to mix it with the other pieces. And services, being able to detect on your IoT side, on your sensor data, just enables you to react more quickly as opposed to, right, traditionally having these siloed systems. Who are some of the partners that we work with, right? I think one of the fundamental key value pieces for Snowflake is the ecosystem of partners that we have. And because we have a cloud-based system, is that any Snowflake customer can share data with any other customer. And this can allow you in upstream, downstream supply chain business partners to be able to share not megabytes of data, but petabytes of data. This is super interesting on the master data side, spare parts, for example, cold storage, these kinds of things. And so on the manufacturing piece, we have a lot of Snowflake partners who are sharing their data either for free or as part of the marketplace. And it's also a great way if you want to monetize your data really easily, you immediately have access to over 9,000 other customers. On the technology partners, AWS, we're the #1 ISV for AWS. This is a massive thing for us and a great thing for AWS on that side. But we also work on Microsoft and Google. Powered by Snowflake, we first started out on the data side, but now we have something called native applications, and we have lots of companies that are building applications directly on Snowflake. First, there's analytical loads, and now we're bringing in our HTAP or OLTP piece as well into Snowflake. And then systems integrators, right? Especially on something as complex as SAP. The partners you're working with today, they also work with Snowflake. What are some of the steps? The two big technical use cases that we see is that these large companies that have HANA Enterprise Data Warehouse, right, costs millions. You have, maybe 60 terabytes, 100 terabytes on there for only, 16, 20 million a year. Is that a terabyte in Snowflake is 23 euros per terabyte per month. So it's literally hundreds of times cheaper, and that's just on the storage piece. Of course, there's a computation piece, but we've seen reductions in costs for equivalent features and even improved features, 40-50%, and we have customer references on that. So one is just complete replace of HANA Enterprise Data Warehouse. It's an ANSI SQL database. At its foundations, Snowflake is as well. And the second piece is BW. It's always a harder play, right? Because it's been around for a long time. There's a lot of custom code in it. And there's also, planning, consolidation, et cetera, is that if you look at the SAP roadmap, though, they're pushing that planning piece out of BW into SAP Analytics Cloud, and they're pushing the consolidation piece into group reporting on the S4 piece. So one, it's already moving out of BW. Second piece is that you can save a lot of money reducing that size of BW, moving the workloads into Snowflake, and then for the other piece, why not keep a bit of BW around? Everybody loves a little bit of that. What are the basics? Moving ERP data SAP to Snowflake. Systematically, everybody asks me, how do you get data out of SAP? There's 12 interfaces, and we will go through each one. No, sorry. So there's some partners and some partners in the room that have been doing this for years and years and years. SAP Silver Partner, they know how to get the data out. They know how to get, what about transparent tables? Yes. Pool tables? Yes. Cluster tables? All that stuff. Get it out. What about the security? Yes, of course. And how do I get that in real time? Yes. You can get that out. Trigger-based, batch-based, micro-batch. It's all there. It's been done. It's been done thousands of times. And then acquisition. So there's partners that push data directly into Snowflake tables. There's other ones that use files. Depends on how fast you want it. Depends on some of the economics. Transformation. Some people, Snowflake is a fully functional, not only on the SQL feature side, but Python, Scala, Java, all these and the libraries that are behind it. You can use all these different tools. They're at your disposal inside of that centralized, governed Snowflake ecosystem platform, as it were. Reporting and analysis, right? We're model agnostic. I was talking to a customer who's using Data Vault, bring across 30 different BW systems into that. The other ones that saying, I'm going to use BW, it's already modeled. I use that as a source. And so I have my 65 dimensions and my 3 fact tables for my global spend analysis, and it's there already. Reporting, say ODBC, JDBC. Again, if you want to use Python or ML, AI, all those interfaces are there. And then at the end, of course, right, you want to be able to eventually turn off some other stuff and get those cost savings. We have a breakpoint, right? You're going to have both systems running at the same time, so it's going to cost a bit more, but then you have a massive decrease in spend on the Snowflake side, and as you turn off that BW side. Some of the partners that we work with, and I'll just talk about on the acquisition side, there's SNP Glue. Can you raise your hands? So these two guys, SNP Glue, used to be Datavard Glue, worked really closely with us over the past year. We came out with, it's called a streaming SDK. And so previous at Snowflake, you would have to batch, load things, staging area, bring it across. They worked with us. And so you can now stream data directly from an SAP system directly into a Snowflake system. It is the most direct path on the market for the data is these guys here. Informatica, they came in a bit. The other ones might work with some other cases, and they're absolutely available. If we take a look at some of the reference architectures, pretty simple. There's, you need to have some kind of tool between SAP systems and Snowflake. And beyond that is like, what's the interest of Snowflake? Is like, take over the data lake component, data engineering component, ML component, AI component, the other workloads. We also have, security logs and whatnot. But you land it, you can transform it within Snowflake. You can use a tool of choice, or you can use native features that we have in Snowflake. We have something dynamic tables. Say you use an SNP Glue, you land that, you have that PSA, that raw layer, and then a dynamic tables. You can do any kind of arbitrary SQLs that combine these 5 tables to have this reference table at the end, and we manage the delta. We manage the loading behind it automatically. Some of the replication tools, some of the, and we'll leave this as reference because it gets a bit complicated on what can you hit against, what does things natively, what does things at the database level and whatnot. And this is just on the SAP side, right? What are the SAP supported tools or SAP tools that have certified Snowflake connectors? So data services, and so they can use also these other tools that have that and bring it across. Third-party tools, is it an ABAP application that's pushing data out like the Glue? Is it some agent that's sitting outside of that? Is it hitting against database logs? How are you dealing with the SAP licensing? If we take a look at the AWS, so this is a general reference architecture that I built up with the AWS architects. And I think it's one of the, especially for manufacturing, one of the most compelling architectures out there. Why? Is because you can bring in not only that IT data, with transactional, Oracle, SAP, or whatnot, but also that OT data in one place in an economical, efficient, effective way of bringing it across. And it goes through a lot of the different pieces that we have. Maybe a bit of, Snowflake 101 is that we land the data once. It's in triplicate for resiliency. And then we have compute clusters on top of that. And you only pay by the second. Say, I run a query. We, Snowflake, have a hot pool of compute clusters that are running. So it attaches in a second, runs the query, and then it can turn off. And so you're only paying for that number of seconds that compute cluster is running plus average storage cost. You look at legacy systems, transactional systems, even cloud solutions that are supplied by other things. It takes the other solutions, right? 15 minutes to start, and then I can run my query, and then I don't want to turn it off to lose cache. You're paying for that all the time. That's not the case with Snowflake. Turn it on, off. It's like a utility. It's like electricity. ABB, they've been my customer. So I've worked for Snowflake for 4 years, worked for SAP before that for 18 years. ABB has been my customer for 10 years. We'll do the math. They have 40 ERPs. And you think, okay, it's all SAP, just bring it across and it's easy to report. No, because it's 40 different blueprints. And so they spent literally 8 years building up a semantic layer on the BW side because all the fields weren't saying matching and things like that. A lot of manual effort there, and now now it's easy enough. The IP is there. It's easy enough to shift over to Snowflake, bring together, have a modern platform that's scalable, not to 60 terabytes, but to hundreds of terabytes, to petabytes. Some of the savings that they have, right? 200 million savings annually on the inventory purchases, revenue growth. They have to have this to support it. How else can you go from a couple hundred analytics users to thousands and thousands of analytic users? It's Snowflake. It can scale. It scales horizontally and it can scale vertically within seconds. It's not a question. It's like, oh, I need to order another machine. It will come in 6 weeks. I need to transfer the. No, it's in seconds. It's like make it bigger, make it extra large, make it small. The next one, near and dear to my heart, Siemens. Anybody here Siemens? No. So two people from Siemens are right here. Right? Absolutely huge HANA Enterprise Data Warehouse deployment. Within months, they replaced that with Snowflake. We're talking over 50 ERPs. They're using a combination of SAP technology and SNP glue to get the data across, so SLT plus SNP. Land it in Snowflake, all the transformations. Now they're able to serve up tens of thousands of users. They build an application to automatically generate and deploy Snowflake environments for their users. And this is IT automating this creation, which is unheard of. So they reduce supply chain risk, improved cost and efficiency gains, secure self-service tools, which we just mentioned. So how do you get started? Do you want to? No, okay. So one of the things to go is like, what's your status quo? What, for example, if you're using BW, what are you not using? And wouldn't it be nice if you're not using 30% of it that you're not going to migrate it across? And so SNP, for example, gives a. We're going to change the name to Fitness Tails, or let BW die nicely, but maybe you won't. But you install it, runs 4 or 5 weeks. You see what's being used, what's not being used, and then you can decide, hey, if we're not using that, we can turn it off, and maybe BW will live a little bit longer. Or hey, these are the things that are super important. Let's bring those across. Thank you. I'll open up to questions. We have a couple minutes.